Many people have asked me recently, how do you eat Crota? Is there a video on this? Can you provide me your dim link? Is there a way that I could do this? So I went and looked on YouTube. There wasn't a lot of videos created, so I wanted to create this video. The last videos that I could find were before Bungie did this Hunter smoke effect changes, which changed how we need to set up for Crota using the Omni Strike build. With that, you might be asking, why should I do Crota eating if you weren't part of the people that were asking, what's your build? How do you eat Crota? So, many reasons. During non-featured weeks, you can get spoils and oversouls by doing this on normal mode, and during featured weeks, you can get oversouls and red water weapons on normal. And if you're up for the challenge, you can even get some adept weapons if you're running it on master. You can use these different tips, tricks, strategies on master or normal Crota, but I really highly recommend that you do this on master Crota during the featured raid weeks to get those free adept weapons and the loot for your friends, your clanmates, or anyone. Starting out, there's a couple different recommended builds that I'm going to show you guys. I think pushing can be done on any character, but I think Hunter is the easiest to do it on due to the invisibility and damage resistance that you have. So the two builds that I am going to share with you and that I have personally seen success with are Omnioculus, which is one of the Hunter exotics. Here, it's one of the chess pieces, and Graviton Forfeit, which both of these change how invisibility works a little bit on Hunter and boosts them a little bit in their own ways. So for both of these builds, each of them is going to have the exact same subclass. We're going to do Void. So let's talk about the subclass before we get into the different exotics. So first, you're going to want to run a Void Hunter on Night Stalker. So the super doesn't really matter. The dodge, you're going to want to have Gambler's Dodge in order to get back to your melee when you do dodges. Your jump, I personally recommend triple jump as a hunter, but you can do any jump. There was only one melee, so of course, snare bomb. Your grenade doesn't really matter because you won't really be using your grenade, but I highly recommend if you want to use a grenade, I would use suppressor grenade, just because that'll just suppress the targets, and I don't think that it will actually kill targets. It is still possible to kill the knights, but it is less likely. As for aspects, there's two important aspects that you're going to want. You're going to want Trapper's Ambush, so that when you dive on the ground, you will go invis. And you will want Vanishing Step as well, which dodging makes you invisible. I have looked at like a little bit about the Into the Prowl, and I don't see this one working very well in this build, because also if something is marked and you do a finisher on that night, it will put smoke around, and then it will mess with Crota's aggro, and you really don't want that. So let's go to fragments. There's two important fragments that you really want for this build. So that's going to be Echo of Obscurity, which will finish your final blows, grant your invisibility, and Echo of Persistence, which this makes your invisibility longer. And then the other two, I have Echo of Dilation, so that I have the plus 10 of mobility, and Echo of Leeching, so that I have the plus 10 of resilience as well. For stats, as a hunter for both of these builds, you're going to want to focus on mobility, resilience, and strength. Mobility so that you get your dodge back as quick as possible. Resilience so you aren't dying as fast. And strength so that you are getting your melee back very quickly. Before I forget to mention too, remember that Omnioculus will give you damage resistance times 4, and as well as give you 2 melees, which is really nice. Also, it lets you go dive on your teammates, so if you're in a team, you can get your melees back if you go dive on your teammates and give them damage resistance. So this is a really good option if you are in a team setting. Now we're going to talk about armor mods. So the main armor mods that matter is on your arms, you're going to want to have triple focusing strike, so that when you do damage with your powered melee, you get class ability damage back. This is important because there will be times where your melee will hit the knights, and you're going to want to get that dodge back so that you have your dodge ready for when you need to dodge to avoid Crota and to keep your invis. Your chest piece matters too. You're going to want to have a melee resist, an arc resist, and a solar resist. The knights do arc damage. There's sometimes acolytes that are throwing solar damage, and the melee resistance is for when the knights try to slam down or when Crota tries to slam down. Your class item is another important one. You're going to want to run double outreach, which reduces your melee cooldown when you use your class ability, which is also huge. Even though you already have on Gambler's Dodge, it's just really nice to be able to get your melee back even faster with class ability. And I have found Proximity Ward to be absolutely amazing, so that can do a finisher and then you have an Overseer shield, just in case the knights decide to smack their swords right at the right time. I have had it kill me so many times and I've had to have people come res me. So as far as those go, that is armor mods for both builds. These are just the important things that help the build be what it is. It's the exact same for Graviton Forfeit. So moving on to the weapons. I personally like to run a blinding grenade launcher and Indebted Kindness, which is just a arc sidearm, and Song of Iryu. I mostly use Song of Iryu. Sometimes I will blind them. I don't do so anymore. And this sidearm, sometimes I use, sometimes I don't. Kind of just depends on what my mood is. If you aren't comfortable with the invis rotation, though, you can switch to Rat King. And if you get a kill with Rat King and then reload it, you will go invisible. Or I've seen people use Heart Shadow. I'm not a huge fan of Heart Shadow and Rat King, but those are some options as well. Let's move on and talk about Graviton Forfeit, which is another really good option. Graviton Forfeit will just increase your invisibility effects, and while you're invis, your melee recharges extremely fast. I feel like I get my melee back really fast when I have used this build. If we look back at the mods, I won't go too in depth to it again. If you want to go back to the Omniaculous part, it is pretty much the same mods. Some of them are slightly different because it's been a little bit since I've used this build. But general same concept. 3 focusing strikes to get your class ability back with melees. And then the resistances I would change back to solar, arc, and melee still. I think on this one, I just needed the double melee. And then your class item is exactly the same, outreach and proximity ward. So now that you know about these builds, I just want to point out that you can also do this on Warlock and Titan as well. I have seen Warlocks do Crota with Rat King, and Titans do Crota with Strongholds. I just haven't seen them as consistent, and Hunter is the most used, I feel like, for this strategy. And now we're going to talk about one of the most important things to be able to yeet Crota, the finishers. So there's 2 different finishers that I recommend. One of them is Hunter specific, and one of them is only available during Guardian games. So the first one we're going to talk about is Omni Strike. It is 1,000 silver in the store, and it is in the archives. It is a couple pages down, but this is the Hunter only finisher. It pushes Crota off the map, and then we have under the event, since Guardian Games is currently out, I think it's 2nd page in, it is called Served. Served is another very consistent finisher. I know that Give 'em the Chair has also finished Crota off the map quite a bit. I've seen a few people do this, but I think Served and Omni Strike are the 2 most consistent that I have found personally. And Served is actually a little cheaper than Omni Strike, being 800 silver, but again, it is only available during Guardian games. Before we start talking about our invis rotation, how it's done, we need to look over here. So the spot that I will talk about where we're jumping will be right here in between these 2 circles. It is very important here because if you look, it is a slope. This is what kind of pushes Crota out of the map with momentum. So this is going to be the jumping spot that we will have. Starting with our invis rotation, we're going to get these knights to finisher, and we will be finishing a knight here to go invis, and that will start our rotation. So depending on your timer, if your timer is less than 2 seconds, you're going to want to go invis right away. But if you have a few seconds, when you jump from over here, so let's say there's like 5 seconds on the timer, you're going to jump over here. You're going to jump here to get Crota back up until you're at 2 seconds. When you're at 2 seconds, you're going to dive to this corner. You're going to walk to the middle, and then you're going to jump back up. Ideally, Crota should still be backing up. So let's say my invis was at 2. I should have dived a little earlier, but we just dive in the corner and jump back up. By this point, Crota should be running back, so you're going to stand still. When you get to 2 seconds, you're going to dive forward. and then Crota should be up here, and then you can go look for a lineup. Let's say Crota's there, you could just do a finisher, and you'll go invis again, and he should fly. So let's do that again. So now that we have our abilities back, let's start here again. Let's say we finish our knight, we're jumping over here, we're at 2 seconds now, so we just immediately go dive, run back to the middle, jump back up, keep jumping, 5, 4, 3, dive again when we're at 2, and then we're going to run back middle, jump back up. Let's say Crota's running up now. When he gets like halfway or we're at 2 seconds, we're going to dive, or dodge, not dive, sorry, and then we keep our invis, and then he should be lining up. The knight should be behind him. I do really recommend that you practice this invis rotation, either in Crota's end, like after starting the encounter, or even before starting the encounter, like it is in this instance here. You can just come over here, come practice your jumping, and then diving in the corner, and running back, and jumping back up. Just getting used to the timer will be key for being able to be consistent, and your invisibility always being up. And you can do this solo or with friends. I do want to note, if you do have fire team members with you, the spot that you're going to want them to be in, it will be this corner over here. They can just run through that hallway over there and get those knights finisher for you, and then they can come straight to this hidey hole. And that way, if you need to, you can come over here, go reset your invis if you mess up your rotation, which is totally okay, because I did that a lot. And they can sit here. I do want to note that emoting and just sitting here is okay. You do not want people using their abilities or shooting, because that will drag Crota's aggro. Also, you don't want to have people standing here because Crota can slightly see them. So you're going to want to have the people back here as far as possible. Not jumping. I always recommend that they just emote. They can do like group emotes together, they can do solo emotes, and they can just chill. And they can watch from this angle back here and just watch Crota fly. Another thing that you're going to want to remember is make sure if there are others helping you, have them not kill the knights in this tower. If you kill both side knights, there will be unstoppables that spawn if you're on master, and normal ogres that will spawn if you are on normal. And they are really a pain to deal with. I also recommend getting the wizard killed or as a finisher so you can use him as an extra invis, just because he can smoke this area, and then it will make you not be able to jump. And in my opinion, it is very annoying to have to deal with the wizard. I have died to specifically the wizard before, and it gets very annoying that the wizard just smokes the area, and then you just can't jump, and you're just kind of stuck. Another thing that I really need to talk about that I haven't talked about yet is the lineups. Generally, for the lineups, you're going to want to have a knight lined up behind Crota's knee. I will provide some examples of this here in a minute. But you're going to want to have the knight lined up behind Crota's knee, and then you're going to want to use either Omni Strike or Serve like we discussed earlier in the video, and that momentum will push him off as long as he's also on this slope. There is other times where Crota is not lined up correctly in like a quote-unquote good lineup, and it still pushes him off the map. Like he could be standing here, and the knight could be way over in this section over here, and it still makes him fly off. So here's a clip from my stream where I was using Crota. So I'm going to jump, and I'm going to dive in the corner to reset my invis, and jump back up. Here, my invis rotation is a little off since I used my dodge early, so I'm going to finisher an acolyte, and then I'm going to go jump back to the middle just as if I were dodging in the corner, or diving in the corner. I'm going to have to dodge early just because I am almost out of invis, and then I just immediately, as soon as Crota's running up, I go for a lineup. And with that, Crota is off the map. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to please leave a comment, and I will try to answer them. I want to be able to share how to use Crota with the community, so I want to be able to answer questions if people have them. If I wasn't clear on something, please let me know, and I will try to answer everyone's questions. I hope everyone has a fantastic day, evening, night, whatever it is, and I will talk to you guys all later.